welcome to Red Solitary Series. My name is James Lucarelli and you've tuned in to the second installment on Komodo. We're going to go ahead and talk about how you can connect your Komodo for the very first time. Now I'm going to look over to my right and make sure my audio looks good, and I do believe it is good, and I apologize for anyone that may have listened to the first live where we had some issues. We're going to go ahead and give it another go, and I also want to thank both Clay Reed, JT Garden, Noah Alani, Gabriel Mann, and all of the wonderful marketing team that put together that exceptional video that started the stream. Everything you saw there was shot on Komodo, and we're going to go ahead and show you how you can connect to your Komodo and do some of the same for yourself. Now, right off the bat, your Komodo is a very powerful, small form factor, global shutter, 6K cinematic camera from Red. But you know what, if I can't see the screen or I can't get to the buttons because it's in such a high or such an obscure place, it's not going to do me much good with that small form factor. You got to be able to see your image and at least compose your shots and maybe set it up. So what we're going to talk about today and kind of just set the table is we're going to talk about the native connectivity within the camera. There is a couple of modes in here, and there are ways to expand this, but right off the bat we're going to talk about ad-hoc mode. Now, ad-hoc mode is best be described as kind of like turning on a hotspot for your phone. Essentially, you're using the camera to generate its own Wi-Fi, and then you can connect for live stream capabilities for camera control. The good news about this is you can also switch your signal from either a 2.4G to a 5G band. Now, just like your phone, 5G is going to be better for watching videos or saving heavier data files, where 2.4G will be a little bit better for longer distances or going through walls. After ad-hoc mode, you might find yourself in infrastructure Wi-Fi, where just like the room I'm in right now, there is Wi-Fi, or maybe you're going to a studio and there's a Wi-Fi set up there, or maybe your DIT has a mobile Wi-Fi solution and you want to connect to that. Infrastructure mode would be my recommendation if there is an existing Wi-Fi, because typically the Wi-Fi in a building or a studio is going to be much larger than what I can generate directly out of the camera. After that, we'll show you how you can use the fully free Red Control app to, as you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and you can see that I am live monitoring the camera right over here to my left. And I do want to point out that currently this app is available for download in the App Store, and it will be available in the Android store here shortly. I have seen the beta version of the Android app, and it works very great with my Hydrogen phone. Really nice for customers that want to use that as your main control screen. Now, some of us like to use our phone for the control screen, but maybe you're like me and for, heaven forbid, an emergency purpose, you don't want to give up your phone. So what we can go ahead and do is show you how you can use a laptop, a PC, a Mac, anything you want to go ahead and connect to the internet, or connect to the Komodo, as long as you can connect to the internet and get a web signal or a web browser, you can go ahead and connect to the Komodo and do that same control. Now, right off the bat, I don't want to waste anyone's time, so let's go ahead and set up ad-hoc mode. And I really like ad-hoc mode when I'm doing things with my gimbal or something outside where I really want to keep the Komodo light and not have a bunch of cables going to the monitor, and then I can use a nice C-clamp or something like that to mount the phone directly to the gimbal and really not have any cables. So right off the bat, let's go ahead and show you ad-hoc mode. Now, Johnny showed you how you could power up your Komodo, and then you're going to go ahead and go to the Communication tab, go to the Wi-Fi tab, and currently it's disabled. Once enabled, ad-hoc mode will illuminate a little pillar in the upper right-hand corner, and you will see those little broadcast bars as well. You then can see the SSID, or the name of the Wi-Fi. Notice it will default to the camera serial number, and then the password will do the same. I do want to point out that these are both caps and special character specific, so you would not want to make the mistake of putting a 0 where an O should be. Now, with the band, we talked about it a little bit, but 2.4G would be better for larger distances, maybe going through walls, where 5G is going to be better for heavier data signals, things like video. If you can change your band and then change your stream quality, typically you can find a connection that works best for you. You can also see the IP address and the net mask in case you wanted to circle back and connect to this via ad-hoc and maybe a PC later. Now that we're connected, or now that we're broadcasting ad-hoc from the camera, let's go over to our app or our phone and open up your normal Wi-Fi settings where you would find a Wi-Fi. You should see that same camera serial number, or SSID, and this is where you want to be very specific on your password. Notice that I'm doing all the same caps, all the same spelling and punctuation, and if you do have special characters, you do need to make sure it's exact. I would also notice that your password has to be 8 digits or it won't allow you to apply it. Once you see a little connection saying no internet connection, that is your signal that you are now connected to the Komodo's Wi-Fi. You just can't search your internet or try and get emails. It is just that wireless connection to camera. You can hit that little rescan to find the Komodo once you're connected to the AD-HOC Wi-Fi. And notice that right off the bat, your monitoring live stream is not enabled, and you will have to go into camera and enable that. And it will default to medium, but you can always change this from medium to low and to high. That doesn't change the quality of your recording. It's just going to change the level of the MJPEG compression on this 720 out live stream that you're getting directly out of camera. Now, if I'm able to change between 2.4G and 5G bands and low, medium, and high, typically between those 5 parameters, I can find a Wi-Fi or a connection that works for me and the latency isn't too bad. And once again, I do want to point out, you still always have your LCD on directly on the camera, and maybe potentially you have your SDI monitor, which is actually physically connected to the camera. I would always use that first for pulling focus, but that wireless live stream ad-hoc connection might be all that you need to say that, yes, that's the shot I'm looking for, or maybe to change a parameter because the camera's in an area where I can't get to the buttons. That's where ad-hoc's really going to win out. Now let's go ahead and show you how you can set up infrastructure mode, and do notice it's going to be very similar to what we did with ad-hoc mode. You just are going to need to be in an environment that has a Wi-Fi. Now I've moved myself to the upper left-hand corner, and you should see my Komodo ST over here live. And I do want to point out, once again, this is the SDI monitor, this is the LCD that's connected to the camera. Both of these are connected, and here's the wireless app. If I go over here and pull the app and then turn it sideways, and then maybe tap right here in the middle of the shot, notice that I'm getting the same wireless connection, or the same connection and monitor out that I'm getting over here. You just might have a slight latency on this, once again, because this is wirelessly connected to the camera, maybe less than 200 milliseconds. It should be something that's very, 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 very low. Now to set up infrastructure mode, let me give you a better view here, and I'm going to go ahead and magnify in on the top of the camera. And what you're going to go ahead and do here is you can see that right there I still have the ad-hoc pillar right there saying that I'm in ad-hoc mode. And we're going to want to go to Menu, Communication, Menu, Communication, Wi-Fi, and we're going to switch it from ad-hoc mode to infrastructure mode. You can now see that the little bars, I have that standard Wi-Fi right there symbol. And you can also notice that once I entered in the SSID, or the name of the Wi-Fi, and the passphrase once, the Komodo does remember up to 2. Now that's not quite the ability to scan and find a Wi-Fi, but once you enter it in correctly and you've entered in a passphrase, it will remember 2 of those. So it's kind of nice if I'm going from maybe my office to the studio or one place to another and back. You will essentially only have to enter the name and then hit connect, and it will go ahead and connect. The other nice thing of doing infrastructure mode is I now can see that I'm connected over here. Let's go ahead and magnify out. Now my phone lost connection here, but really that's just because it's still looking for that ad-hoc signal. If I go back into the settings of the Wi-Fi within my phone, notice it's already found the native network that I have right here in the house. I get the little confirmation that I'm connected. Reopen your Red Control app. You can do that little rescan if you like. And this is where you are able to select the correct camera that you want. And notice that once I selected that camera, we are now getting that same infrastructure connection that we had in ad-hoc mode, but now we're live streaming via infrastructure mode. This is definitely what I would recommend when you do have the ability to connect to an existing Wi-Fi. And you can take it a step further by taking your phone. I'll typically do this little scroll down, and I'll turn on airplane mode, because now I'm not having any loss of connections or any updates in the middle of my shot. Now that's great if you're fine with having your phone be your dedicated screen and touchscreen, but some of you are like me and you just don't want to be without your phone whatsoever. You could always use a laptop, a PC, a tablet, anything else to get that same exact Red Control, and you can do that in both ad-hoc or infrastructure mode. You just would have to connect whatever that device is into that existing Wi-Fi. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you my desktop here, and what you should see is a little Spotify that we were listening to at the beginning of this. And then I'm going to come over here to an internet browser, and I'm just going to type in that same IP address that we saw there on the control screen. And once I enter in the correct IP address, Notice that I have that same live monitor out with the same camera controls that we had in the app, except now it's in a nice desktop format here where I could easily add a 3D LUT or maybe come into the lens control here and focus the lens. And I'm doing that all using just the Wi-Fi and the native connections within being in infrastructure mode. Now I'm showing you a lot of control capabilities here. Maybe you don't want to give up that much camera control. So take that same address, and I'm going to paste it here in a new browser, and I'm going to add a little semicolon 9090 at the end. And what I've essentially did is I just gave you monitor out. And now off camera I can go ahead and rack that camera and get that to be a little bit more in focus. And if you're noticing right here, we are still in that low quality stream setting. Off camera, I'm going to go ahead and change that from low to medium and medium to high. And you should see an improvement on that live stream out. But once again, that is not changing the quality. That is just changing the quality of the live stream out. This is mainly just for monitoring purposes or for composing your shot. Now I want to thank everyone for sitting through that initial run through of how you can set up ad hoc mode, which is kind of like a mobile hotspot from your camera, how you could do infrastructure mode, which is jumping on the existing Wi-Fi that's here in the room, and how you could also use either the Red Control app, your phone, or any PC or laptop to connect to the camera. Now that's really great, but in COVID and in 2020, it's becoming increasingly more difficult to get people in the same room or in the same building, or maybe to even get on the airplane to be in the same neighborhood. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is show you how you can do port forwarding. And port forwarding is definitely something that I would advise you to either talk to your internet provider, maybe download the manuals to your to your router and your wireless systems, or maybe talk to your IT team if you are fortunate enough to have an IT team at your disposal. And really what we're going to go ahead and do is make sure that you can do port forwarding. And if this is something that you are opening up an unsecured connection to the World Wide Web, so this might be something that you want to set up an FTP or a dedicated connection so you're not having any unwanted controls or viewers of your stream. Once again, this is called port forwarding. I'm going to walk you through the setup, and then we'll take some questions after that. So right off the bat, I have a normal Netgear router that you might get off of Amazon or Costco, and you're going to open up a browser and type in routerlogin.net. It'll then ask you for your admin and password, and if you're not quite sure, do note that they print this right on the bottom if you haven't changed it. Now, once you're in your Netgear or your router control interface, I have grayed out some of this information just so we don't have anyone interrupting with the stream, but you are going to navigate to the Advanced tab and then to the Advanced Setup dropdown, and then go to the Port Forwarding, Port Triggering tab. Now you're going to want to change your service name from FTP to HTTP, and then go ahead and click Apply. And then you're going to go ahead and add that specific IP address that we went ahead and saw there when we connected the camera. For this one, it ended in 14. Once you've added that address, you can then go ahead and edit the services to include the additional ports. So you then can change your protocol from TCP to TCP/UDP, and then you can come in and enter in your port ranges. So I would do 80,9998, 9090, 9292. And once you've entered in your port ranges, you can go ahead and apply that. And you do want to make sure you're applying that to the appropriate IP address. Now that we've applied that, we can then go ahead and reserve that IP address again, so that way we're not having to have that change every time we boot up the camera and connect it. And what I can do is essentially reserve that DHCP address. And what I go ahead and do here is you're going to find that same IP address, that 192.168.14. Notice that the device name will default to a COBA ARC radar detector. This is also where you could come in and change that to be the camera device name of your choice. I'm going to go ahead and put the serial number in here so I know which camera is which. And once you've gone ahead and done that, you've reserved that IP address, you've now opened up your ports, you can go up and open a brand new internet tab and type in "What's my IP?" And once again, I've grayed this out just so we don't have anyone interrupting the stream. And I can now pass this along to whoever I'd like to have connection and control of my camera, and they will essentially just paste that into an internet browser of their choice. And now look what we're doing. We're doing that same exact camera control, maybe not here, not in the room, not on the Wi-Fi, from somewhere different, and really is giving us some increased capability, all from something that's directly out of camera. Now, for those that were paying attention, you may have saw when I was connecting the camera here, there was the option to connect to a second camera in the room. For the most part, we do try and keep it as one control surface to one camera, but you can go ahead and select the others. Now, I do have a second camera in the room, and this is where I'm going to call on my associate Johnny to come over here and help me a little bit here. And I'm going to go ahead and show you my desktop here, and I want to go ahead and create a brand new internet browser here, and I'm going to type in that 192.168, and I'm going to add a 16 at the end, and a little comma 9090. Hey, Johnny, can you go ahead and fix the focus on that additional Komodo there?
Just fixing that shot for you there, getting that focus. I'm going to come in and change the LUT there for you as well, just so all your cameras are matching.
Thank you.
And there we go, everything's matching. Good to go, man.
And I'll just move my framing just a smidge there. And really what we're doing here is we're essentially connected to a different Komodo that's in the room. Johnny is on the other side of the globe right now, and he can essentially rack and control that camera, and he's doing that all from the field, completely in a different state or country altogether. And really what we're able to do is right out of camera, compose our shot, get all of that same camera control. And yes, I know ideally I'd like to be in the room, but this is a great way that we can use our Komodo to essentially use port forwarding and expand that connectivity and control. Now I want to take it back to my camera in full and address a couple of the questions that came up in the initial stream. Now I'm going to look over to my right, and I apologize for doing that. And all right. Yeah, some of the early ST customers, so customers that had the ST or the limited edition white units, there is no difference between this white camera and the new black production cameras that are coming out. It was just that these were the limited edition cameras that did come out earlier, and some customers were having some issues connecting to that Wi-Fi. Now, I will say from someone that's used the camera and had the ability to do this connection, notice that I'm doing it kind of side saddle right here, like the camera's not right here in front of me. That's always not going to give you the best experience. Really put the camera right in front of you, and you'll have a much better time entering in the exact numbers and letters for your passwords or for your SSID. I do also want to point out that if you know you got it correct and you've entered in everything in the correct and you still can't figure it out, I would encourage you to potentially go ahead and delete that and try and re-enter it. And another thing you should always be cautious of is special characters. Like my phone, the Wi-Fi defers to James's Wi-Fi with apostrophe S. The Komodo currently doesn't have the ability to do apostrophes in there, so that special character would not allow me to connect to the camera. You really do want to make sure that it's the exact spelling and capitalization, and if there's just one additional space, or maybe you misrepresented a 0 for an O, that will not allow you to connect. So go ahead and double check, and typically you'll have better connection. Yeah, great question. How many devices can you have connected to a control device? Now, we're going to do future follow-ups, solitary series on how you could connect multiple Komodos and control them all at once. But right now, what we're really focusing on is having one control device for one camera. Now, you could always use the internet control like I was showing you here and open up multiple web browsers and just have a different instance of a web browser open for each camera. That would allow you to connect multiple cameras or control multiple cameras. Also right here in the app, notice that I just have to come back over here to the home screen of the app, and I can clearly see that there's two cameras that I can connect to. Right now I'm connected to this one, but I can easily connect over to this one, and that's why, once again, it does need to be about one camera for one control device. Great question. Yeah, if you wanted to lose the SDI screen and then mount your phone to use that as a live control monitor, that's actually a great suggestion. So notice I have all of the same camera controls that I had right over here on the camera. I can even now turn it sideways and have an even bigger playback screen. And what I've actually seen customers do, and I've done it myself, is what we can do is double tap over here, make this full screen, and I'm going to grab my Komodo, which is now currently connected with an SDI monitor right here, but I could easily get a C-clamp or something like that, and then now I have that phone doubling as my monitor and my touchscreen. So it's something where you could do one or the other, or maybe you keep the SDI screen on here for focus and for critical things like that because it is connected, and then you can give this to either maybe your creative director or maybe your assistant or someone that's just going to help you give an additional set of eyes on what we're recording. Great question. Great question. This actually came in from the previous solitary series. Someone was asking to see the bottom of the Komodo here, and I'm not going to grab this one because it has a plate on it, so I'm going to grab this one over here. Give me 1 second here. So looking at the bottom of the Komodo, notice that it is just the 3/8, the traditional 3/8 input right here, as well as a 1/4-20. You can also see these two little star pegs right here, which actually are indents that go with the Komodo mounting plate, and that'll keep the camera from spinning and all. I do also want to take the time to hold up this Komodo ST. Once again, the Komodo ST is just the limited edition white version. There was some other colored versions that Jared did provide, but once again, those are just limited edition early cameras. The black production units will be able to do the exact same control and menu systems that I've showed you thus far. Now, here is my Komodo ST, and here is my DSMC2 body that I just had handy. Now, if you want to see them side by side, you can see that it's a much smaller footprint here, and it's getting to be a much smaller form factor camera. So it's great to be able to have both a DSMC2, a Ranger, and a Komodo, once again, just because of look at the connectivity and look at the potential small form factor here that I could go ahead and utilize. All right. Now I'm going to look one more time over to my right and see if there's any more additional questions here. Yeah. What are the specs of the stream quality that come out of that live stream? I mentioned it earlier, but it is only a 720 signal, so once again, I probably wouldn't want to go ahead and record that as being my highest quality. That's where I would use maybe the SDI out, where I could get a full 4K DCI out, and that would allow me to record to an external monitor or an external recorder, and it would be at much higher quality. It is a 720 signal, and it is compressed with an MJPEG or mobile JPEG compression, and that's why you might notice that low quality banding or posterization. Once again, does not affect the live recording. It is just for that monitoring purposes. All right, I think we've addressed all of our questions. I want to thank anyone that sat through the initial live stream where we had a little bit of audio issues. We definitely got it taken care of on this one. Until the next solitary series, which is going to be Jonathan Petz doing a deeper dive on the Red Control app, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Please continue to stay safe, take care of your neighbor. Get out there and go shoot something.
There's one thing I love as much as shooting movies. And that's riding Harley-Davidsons. So when Red approached me to test their new camera, the Komodo, in extreme conditions, I said, hell yeah. There is a gathering of hardened riders who come from all over the world, beasts of the cold who wait all year for the snow and ice. Vintage as the bikes they ride, they're known as the frozen few. I took my team on the roam to observe these men who honor long traditions of Harley-Davidson. Riders who challenge the boundaries of mortal blood and metal bikes. This is the smallest cinema camera I have ever used. 6K. And combined with the Lightsina lenses, we pushed it to the limit. We strapped them down, smothered them in sleet, forcing them to withstand the harshest conditions. Tight spaces, speeding cars, on bikes. It is straight up the most versatile camera that I have ever used. It's like cinema in the palm of your hands. I hunted down the frozen few to test Red's newest digital camera. But instead, this tribe of Harley men took me in as a brother and gave me something I'll never forget. I was honored to be a part of this and shared the story of these men, and I am extremely honored to be a part of the Red family. Thank you for the opportunity.